There were great big pit toilets, and they were actually within a little cloakroom on the edge of and they had chemicals in them, and then in the summer, when there was no school, they would get pumped out.
Huh.
So they actually were indoor, but it was pretty crude. Little water cooler in the corner, you know.
So tell us about winter.
Well, winter was hard. It really was, because, we done a lot of things with our neighbor families. There we would use the horses because our roads weren't plowed, and we would venture off and have supper at some families, and my folks would play cards and the kids would play games, or you'd make popcorn or pull taffy,
Yeah.
popcorn balls.
Is this when you started your love of music? Did you?
Probably, because we had house parties, had music. My folks were quite musical, and my dad was a square dance caller.
Oh, really?
And they just kind of moved things back and had a dance, and sometimes they played cards for a while, and then they danced. But that's probably, you're right.
Well,
Did you do that in the barn or something?
No, always in the house.
In the house?
Yep.
Did people spend the night?
Generally not, generally not. And then a lot of this music was done at the local grange halls. Barnard had a grange and Marion Center had a grange. There was about a grange, throughout these communities. And a lot of these events happened there also.
And what instruments? You say your father was a caller. What did he play? An instrument?
He usually played a mouth organ. My mom played the organ.
Oh.
And then later there was farmers who had a piano, but they could get a lot of music, and then there'd be a fiddler neighbor or a guitar player neighbor or something,
And then on Sunday, you all came together they all went to the church there, or how did it work on Sunday?
Yep. All went to church there.
Even in the snowy weather, you'd still...
Even the snowy weather. They had barns for the horses, and lots of times in the winter you'd just walk to church because, that's the way you did it. Walk to school and walk to church too.
How far away was church for you?
For me, a half a mile.
Oh, that's not bad.
And for me to school was a half a mile.
Yeah.
We waited till the kids that were 2 miles back, and then we gathered up with them, They were already wet and cold, and we weren't.
So your parents planned the house the right place.
Well, however. Yep.
So did you use cross-country type skis, or
Just
how did you get around here?
plain old skis, and we didn't think about skiing
No,
cross
just to
country.
get around.
But
Yeah.
just a skiing party on the hill, that type of thing. But otherwise, we didn't, none of our people and none of our neighbors skied anywhere,
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But that's how you got places. You had to wear the skis.
No, you just walk.
Oh, you walked in the snow.
You see the horses on these roads, that road got real hard. And it kind of built up where the sleigh and the horses went, and when the wind blew, it kind of blew off that hard area, and you could usually walk. You couldn't, just to go out in the middle of the field where the snow was deep, it'd be rough, but,
How deep
Yep.
did the snow get then?
well, you know how it's always
Bigger.
was big time worse then, but probably no different than now, but we thought it was. But it didn't get moved, it just didn't get
Yeah.
moved.
It stayed where it was.
Yeah, the track you had to go to the barn built up just like, it was just the way it was.
Yeah. When did you said electricity came to your farm?
Electricity came by our road on Phelps Road we had electric at the school because on the main road they had electric. In fact, Charlevoix owned the power company in Bel Air, and that's how Charlevoix got their power, from a dam in Bel Air by a big power line that come from Bel Air to Charlevoix. And so the Marion Center, Charlevoix Ellsworth Road, they had access to some electric before anybody else. But then the rural electric people, I think they came by in about 39 or 40, and we actually got our electric, I think, in 43,
Okay.
42 maybe, into our home and got it on. And,
That's
How did
why.
that change your lives?
oh, we thought one little light bulb in the middle of the room, we were in heaven. I can remember my folks when they wired that house, you know, one little plug or two on each wall. That's all anybody would ever need, and that big old light in the middle, you know, with a pull chain on it. That's, I mean, after the kerosene lamp, it was pretty bright. Yeah.
When did your mother get her first appliances, electric appliances?
Right after World War II, got her electric refrigerator first.
Wow, so it's that long.
Yep, yep. Well, they weren't available, you know, during the war.
Because
No,
nothing was
no,
available.
nothing was. And then I don't know if there was enough coins together to get it anyway. But I would say we might have got it in 46, maybe 47. Yep. And then after we got electric, then we, of course, got water in, and then we got our first bathroom. You know, big time. Big time.
That would have been a big time.
Yeah,
Especially in the winter.
yeah.
So was her first appliance a washing machine?
I think it was a refrigerator.
It was a refrigerator,
Yeah.
that's right. You said
Then washer,
that. Okay.
and then the stove came last. Yep.
So how did you cook prior to that? Just,
A wood stove.
okay.
Yep. My mother baked in the oven and cooked on top, and then, you know, we were in our living room, dining room was kind of a big archway, and so one heating stove heated the living area, but then the kitchen wood stove, of course, heated that real hot
Yeah.
whenever you were baking or cooking something.
Did she
Yeah.
have a summer kitchen?
Not really a summer kitchen. We had kind of a back porch, and by the way, she had a washing machine well before that, I'm sorry, because she had a gasoline engine on the washing machine. A Briggs & Stratton gasoline engine,
Wow.
and I don't want to back up, but on that, my dad had got an old generator from an old car, and every time she done laundry, which I think was every other day, because there was 8 kids,
Yeah.
he had this generator hooked up, so this belt would actually, generator would charge an old 6-volt battery, and then we had a battery radio
Wow.
that we would listen to with the results of keeping that battery charged from that washing machine engine while the engine, so really the first appliance was that.
Was that?
So on that, in that back room, it was our wood shed, it was our back porch, it was everything. We had a kerosene stove and a table, and sometimes she would can out there rather than being in. And this kerosene stove, I remember, was about a 4-burner, and
Okay.
it would actually, you know, you could put a cooker on and can, and
So that was her summer area.
exactly, to keep the heat out of the
Out of the
house.
kitchen.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
kerosene stove.
yeah. That was for cooking.
Right.
And the name of it was New Perfection. I can see it yet.
Wow. New perfection.
Yeah.
Anything to get the heat out of the kitchen, I can understand.
Yep,
Now, did you have cows that you milked too?
yes,
Yeah.
yep,
That's how you get milk.
yep, yep. And that, in the late 30s and early 40s, we had people that, are you familiar with Lake 26 or Lake Marion?
Yes.
Okay, we were right adjacent to that. There was already people who had homes there from Chicago, 2 families that, and they always got eggs from us, they got cream from us, they got milk from us, and they would get those chickens on Saturday also. Yeah.
So is that really how you made your money then?
Well, yeah, that extra, you know, that,
Yeah.
sure, exactly. Yeah. And they were just excellent people. I mean, they were just, I remember my 2 brothers right after Pearl Harbor They went in World War II in 42, and neither got to come home from boot camp, or, they just on to the war areas. And my brother, one brother, when he happened to go to the Navy, the other in the Army. When he got done with boot camp in 6 weeks in Illinois, at, what's the name of it? Right adjacent to Chicago. Well, it's right on the tip of my tongue. These neighbors that lived in Chicago they put her in a car and took her down for a 2-day period, or, I don't remember how long. But they were just great people. Just as kids, you don't always know until later how great they were.
Yeah.
And every one of us kids would work for him in the summer. Every one of us, as we, he always had us puttering and doing something over there. Well, another dollar bill, and
Yeah, helped out.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think of that so much, how good these people were, and as little kids, you didn't really realize that, but she got to go to see my brother before he shipped out.
So how did the war affect the economy in Phelps?
Well, it made production of farm goods better, but there was no help. Every young person was gone, everyone. So kids like me had a chance to work where before we couldn't. And there was no laws that said you couldn't. If you could help the guy load hay, or if you could help him do whatever, you just done it, And glad to do it. And your parents were glad that you were busy and working, and
So how old were you when you remember getting your first pay?
probably from that resorter that I'm talking about. Yeah. And I don't remember what I got, but I do remember going to the Charlevoix County Fair with this little bit of money that I had saved,
So were you 6, 7, 8?
I was probably 8, yeah.
Okay.
And it seems like the folks went to the fair, and I had this little extra money. At that time, the Charlevoix County Fair was in East Jordan.
Oh,
And it was there for years before it merged with Emmett County.
okay.
Yep.
Well, any other pictures you'd like to show us, or have we seen everything that?
Well,
You have an article here, you said your
I have
dad.
an article here that my dad wrote on the community of Phelps.
The town of the past.
Uh-huh. I've got some pictures of the town if I can dig for them,
I
but
can see the logging right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
That's a neat picture. And this would be your father?
yes,
1916?
yes,
Okay.
Yep.
And then this was the father in 1977?
exactly when he was interviewed there, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, yep, he passed away in '83. If you want me to, I got some better pictures, but if you don't, we'll just leave them be.
When did you start your cement business? Your block
My
business?
masonry business,
Masonry business.
I started in '55. My father done this on the side, and he ended up working and farming in the early '40s in the masonry business right here. When L.W. Lamb came and started our bridge in 1946, he got right on as a cement finisher. And as luck would have it, or maybe not luck, I don't know, but he liked it so well that he started selling some cows, and he started selling the horses. And by the late '40s, he went full-time with this bridge company, which built the bridge right here that we see today. And he ended up retiring from that. But in order to do that, him and my mother then had to follow, and they lived in Benton Harbor area while they built a bridge. That's when the freeway systems were first starting in southern Michigan.
Right?
You know, they lived in different areas, and then he ended up coming back and retiring on the old farm right where I grew up, but nevertheless.
Did you travel with him ever, or you always were here?
No, I was always here, yep, and, yep.
Well, that's interesting that he was happy to get out of farming.
Yeah, yep. So the farm was still there, I mean, he didn't,
Yeah, sure, the
you know,
land didn't-
yeah, no.
wasn't
But he
sold.
finally, So anyway, that, I started in about 55. Donna and I were married in 53, and, yep. And we just, it just grew and grew, and
Did you move to Charlevoix then, or where did you live?
I've never lived in Charlevoix, no, never.
So you lived in the Phelps area?
Yeah, or Barnard area.
Did you get part of the farm, or did you?
No, the farm became available for sale, and Donna and I really, really wanted it. But we always thought it would never be ours, and I mean that. I don't mean anything bad about my siblings, but that was their home. That's where they grew up, and we just thought maybe better to not do that, so we didn't.
But you're pretty close by.
Yeah,
really.
no,
As the crow flies, you're.
Yeah, we're about 3 miles away.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I
Yeah.
think just from knowing you that you learned a lot from your dad about talking to everybody.
Well, probably.
Because you're one of the friendliest men I've ever met.
Probably true.
And that's, I think, helped you in your business also. You've been
I-
a very successful businessman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So,
So you've got a story, we hear. Ed was saying you've got a story or two. What story was that?
Oh, no, Ed's just talking. Ed's just talking. He was implanted here, see?
that's right. He wasn't home like you.
It's always funny when people say, "Are you a native here?" And I said, "Well, how long does that take?" And they'll say, "Well, you know, my people moved here in 1939 or 40." And I said, "Well, you got to go further than that." Yeah.
I figured that nobody's a native until really they're born here. Then you can say that.
But the area's treated us good, and, you know, as I say, during the end of the Depression, even early war times, it was strictly a summer town, and not that that was bad, but the employment was mighty small, and winter was long, and whatever the people made, they used it up in heat, and, you know, I don't care what walk of life they had, it just seemed that way. And I think that made people like my father, when he got this job, the money was a lot better, and, you know, and not only he, but a lot of people kind of, as you know, the farms just got less and less, and there's a few large ones left, which bought up other farms and got enough land, but
Do you remember when he got a tractor? Did
he never got a tractor. But no, we still had horses, and then when he started to phase out, we sold everything.
Sold everything.
Yep,
Did you sell all your livestock then?
yep, within the 3 or 4 year period, yep.
So you didn't have to take care of the horses or milk the cows?
No, but by then, you know, I was working out, and,
Sure.
you know, yep.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's been wonderful.
Well, thank you,
We're glad to
thank
have
you.
Is there anything else there that you wanted to share before we took off?
Whoa.
No, a picture or two?
No, things about, I think about that radio. I think about, I can just picture when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, you know. My dad somehow got word of this. You got to remember, one telephone in a whole community, and you didn't go to that telephone and use it unless it was an emergency. When the old gentleman that lived there that had the phone came walking down the road, you just about thought somebody passed away, somebody, because you didn't go talk on the phone. You didn't have a phone, and but somehow that news got around that, like yesterday, this bombing, and my dad was so adamant on getting that old battery charged so that Gabriel Heater, and there was a Gabriel Heater and a Coltonborn come on at 6 o'clock at night. And, you know, the old radio would squawk and squeak, and hopefully you could get, but I remember that so vividly, you know.
Remember that day then, when you heard it? You actually.
I can remember that because, hush up, kids, we want to hear what, that was the only news you got, you know, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
Was it a pretty big deal then?
Yes, yes, and of course, within a year, all the young people were either enlisted, well, 2 years, they kept being all during the war, but my brothers went right off the bat.
Right away they went.
Yeah, and my brother-in-law from here went.
Did they make it back okay?
They made it home, yep, yep, in late 45 and one in 46. And that train, by the way, hadn't stopped at the station. They still considered it. They would give it an extra whistle when they went through, you know, and so on. But I remember Burr Blanchard, for one, the one I said was 92.
Yeah.
They stopped the train. He got off with all his gear when he was discharged.
Wow.
Big deal.
Yeah, it would have been
Yeah.
a huge deal to
Yeah.
have someone come home.
Yeah.
You bet.
And I remember my dad took him on home, you know, and, yeah.
When your brothers came back, did they do a similar thing?
No, they come into Charlevoix, yep. But they probably maybe come in on the bus too. I don't remember. They left on the train.
From the depot.
Yeah, from the depot. Yep. Yep, I remember also my brother-in-law left from down here to City Hall, because the draft board was at the City Hall. And during this 9/11, do you remember being, they had a kind of a vigil program down on the lawn of the Winchester Funeral Home, and the school was discharged for an hour. Do you remember that? The ministers kind of took
Yeah.
that's all I could think of, because that's just the way it looked when the GI